Every winter, visitors to Dubai experience one very specific, highly engineered version of the city. It is a sprawling map defined by massive outdoor crowds, open-air dining, and expansive pedestrian attractions operating under incredibly comfortable weather. Then the calendar turns to summer, and large pieces of that outdoor city simply disappear. Gates are locked shut. Pathways are sun-bleached and completely empty. Familiar entrances are boarded up with signs suggesting a return in October. The seasonal shift is so dramatic that it looks less like a change in weather and more like a synchronized urban shutdown. But the strangest part of this disappearance is not what vanishes, it is what replaces it. Extreme heat does not actually empty Dubai. It completely reorganizes it. The city did not eliminate summer, but it became extraordinarily sophisticated at building an alternate version of itself that allows people to avoid it. To understand how a major global destination survives its own climate, we first have to track exactly where it goes. The first clue to this massive reorganization is found at the edges of the city. Global Village operates as one of the most heavily visited outdoor entertainment destinations in the entire region. During the peak winter months, it is packed with thousands of daily visitors walking freely between international pavilions, food stalls, and open-air rides. But its massive operation is strictly governed by the thermometer. Season 30 of Global Village ran from October 2025 through the end of May 2026. After that final week in May, the entire destination faded from the active tourist map. According to the official site, it is not expected to return until October 2026. Using a calendar to track this reveals a massive physical gap in the city. May transitions to June, July, August, and September, leaving a massive entertainment district completely dormant. The interesting part here is not just that one single attraction closes its doors, it is how perfectly this absence introduces a second version of Dubai's calendar. When a major destination simply removes itself from the summer schedule, it sets a rhythm for the rest of the city. Global Village is not an isolated case. It is only the first piece of a much larger seasonal pattern that completely rewrites the map. Moving inland, this pattern becomes much more explicit, and the exact cause is openly stated. Dubai Safari Park covers a massive outdoor footprint, relying on walking paths and open-air vehicles to move visitors through different animal habitats. In the cooler winter months, families and international tourists fill the exterior spaces at full capacity. By summer, the main entrance is locked, the pathways are completely empty, and the air above the asphalt shimmers with immense radiant heat. Here, the connection to the climate is no longer just an assumption or a quiet seasonal adjustment. The attraction explicitly states the reason for its absence. The official Dubai Safari Park frequently asked questions directly confirm that the park closes during the peak summer months. This closure typically spans from June through September, and the explicitly stated cause is extreme heat. This represents a crucial shift in the evidence of our investigation. The city itself acknowledges that certain outdoor environments simply cross a strict threshold of human and operational viability. It takes a highly specific level of thermal pressure to shut down an entire wildlife park for a third of the year. This directly validates the reality of the summer climate. But a sprawling wildlife park is not the only high-profile part of the city that vanishes when the temperatures peak. The scale of this seasonal retreat becomes undeniable when looking at Dubai Miracle Garden. During the cooler part of the year, it is an explosive display of color and landscape engineering. Millions of flowers form massive tunnels, structural displays, and shaded pathways that draw incredibly dense crowds for outdoor photography. Then the seasonal transition hits the city. The winter crowds disappear, the bright exterior is replaced by harsh, unrelenting sunlight, and the main entrance is blocked off. Officially, the garden is closed for seasonal renovation during these summer months. Its standard operating window heavily aligns with the cooler season, running roughly from October through May. One seasonal attraction closing can easily be dismissed as a highly specific operational choice. A second one making the exact same decision forces you to look a bit closer at the calendar. By the time a third major destination drops off the map, the city itself begins to look fundamentally different. The physical map of usable outdoor space is actively shrinking. Entire pieces of the heavily promoted outdoor experience are effectively being placed in storage. This synchronized withdrawal creates a highly specific illusion about the survival of the city. Watching gate after gate close across the city leads to a very obvious, yet entirely incorrect conclusion. It appears that Dubai simply shuts down during the summer. It looks as though the climate finally wins, forcing the entire tourism and entertainment economy into hibernation until October. But that conclusion is completely false. Dubai does not stop functioning. Tourism does not vanish. Entertainment and social life do not cease to exist. The city instead launches Dubai Summer Surprises, a massive seasonal campaign promoting extensive entertainment, shopping, and family activities. The daily activity has not disappeared from the city. It has simply relocated. The immense energy of the winter crowds has been actively moved to environments where the outdoor temperature no longer dictates the terms of the human experience. When the outdoor gates close, the automatic sliding doors open. Dubai does not stop entertaining people during summer, but it completely moves that entertainment away from the climate outside. The city transitions into a massive network of climate-controlled spaces. Shopping malls, sprawling aquariums, convention halls, and enclosed family entertainment complexes take over the central role in daily urban life. During July and August 2026, Modesh World operates at the Dubai World Trade Center. It functions as a massive indoor family destination, providing rides, games, and entertainment entirely protected from the sun. This provides direct visual evidence of the master summer strategy. The entertainment economy is not paused or defeated by the extreme heat. It is simply transplanted into a heavily engineered environment. This represents a brilliant and entirely necessary adaptation to a harsh geographical reality. The city effectively builds a parallel indoor universe to absorb the exact same human energy that previously flowed through outdoor parks and open-air dining districts. The physical borders of the city might not change, but the usable spaces completely shift their orientation. This is the second version of Dubai. It is a city that turns inward, relying on massive enclosed structures to keep its economy and its social life moving forward. It is one thing for a family to choose an indoor roller coaster over an open-air park. It is entirely different when the most basic human activities have to be redesigned around the limits of the sun. This shift becomes impossible to ignore when you stop talking about the tourists and start watching the long-term residents. During the winter, the city is filled with people jogging along the beaches, running through parks, and exercising in the open air. But as the temperatures peak, those exposed sidewalks and parking lots become aggressively hostile environments. So the running track itself physically relocates. From the 15th of June through the 15th of September, the Dubai Marathon 2026 operates directly inside the city's massive shopping centers. The early morning hours transform commercial retail corridors into active exercise spaces. Runners trade the outdoor pavement for the polished floors of a mall, moving past closed retail stores in a climate-controlled loop. This provides a massive visual contrast. Outside, the roads and walkways are blasted by sunlight and completely void of pedestrian traffic. Inside, hundreds of running shoes hit the ground in an engineered environment maintained at a highly comfortable temperature. When a simple morning jog requires the infrastructure of a multi-billion-dollar retail complex, summer is no longer just changing the entertainment schedule. It is fundamentally altering how pieces of the city are used. If shopping malls can successfully absorb the function of a public park, it forces a larger question about what else changes when the outdoors becomes a zone to avoid. The relocation of physical space is only half of the massive seasonal adaptation. Summer does not just rewrite the physical map of Dubai, it completely changes the value of the clock. During the cooler months, time feels relatively flexible. A tourist or resident can comfortably meet friends, walk outside, or take their children to a destination in the middle of the afternoon. But as the thermal pressure increases, those unprotected daytime hours effectively become dead space. The city begins to operate on a drastically shifted rhythm. Early mornings gain immense premium value, which is exactly why the indoor marathon operates before the stores even open. Once the sun peaks, outdoor social activity flatlines, creating a massive holding pattern until the evening. Life is pushed toward the edges of the day, migrating heavily into the protected nighttime hours, when the radiant heat finally stops accumulating. The daily decision-making process for an ordinary resident completely changes. The question is no longer just what they want to do. The defining question becomes where and when they can comfortably survive doing it. This creates a deeply segmented lifestyle where the middle of the day is surrendered to the climate and human activity is compressed into specific, highly engineered windows of time. For a visitor arriving in July, this temporal shift creates a completely alternate geography. If you look at the standard tourist map promoted in January, it is heavily defined by open-air experiences. It features Global Village, Miracle Garden, the Safari Park, and sprawling outdoor beach clubs. But as the season turns, massive portions of that map simply fade into the background. The destination remains Dubai, but the usable territory shrinks and centralizes. The summer map replaces those open spaces with dense indoor hubs, like the Dubai World Trade Center. During July and August, this massive venue hosts Modesh World, anchoring the family entertainment economy entirely indoors. The itinerary of a summer visitor looks completely alien to a winter tourist. Instead of moving horizontally across the desert landscape from park to park, the summer tourist moves from hotel lobby to air-conditioned vehicle to indoor mega-complex. The word disappear suddenly takes on a much larger meaning than a few locked gates. It means that massive portions of the advertised experience temporarily lose all relevance, while entirely different structures are forced to carry the weight of the tourism industry. The destination is the same, but the usable tourist map fundamentally changes. The city essentially operates two different maps for two completely different climates. This alternate map places an immense burden on the city's enclosed architecture. When people cannot comfortably gather in a town square or a neighborhood park, those social functions do not simply vanish. They migrate into the only spaces large enough and cool enough to hold them. The shopping mall temporarily stops being just a place to buy goods. It absorbs almost every function of a traditional urban center. You can watch a single building transition through multiple civic roles in a matter of hours. At 6 in the morning, it serves as a public running track and an exercise facility. By midday, it is a massive dining district and a highly active social meeting place. By the afternoon, it operates as a sprawling indoor theme park and a climate refuge for families trying to escape the sun. The building is forced to act as a substitute for the outdoors. For several months of the year, these massive complexes behave less like retail centers and more like self-contained, climate-controlled pieces of the city itself. They provide the walkways, the entertainment, and the public squares that the desert climate temporarily reclaims. This is a brilliant architectural defense mechanism, allowing an immense volume of human activity to continue without interruption. But relying on private enclosed spaces to serve as public infrastructure introduces a fascinating contradiction. Dubai has spent decades building a global image strongly associated with spectacular open environments. The promotional brochures feature sprawling deserts, pristine beaches, luxury resorts, and a massive skyline towering over the coast. It is globally recognized and sold as the ultimate outdoor oasis. Yet, the summer reality requires a complete inversion of that carefully constructed image. The survival of the summer tourism economy depends heavily on keeping people away from the very environment they traveled to see. Programs like Dubai Summer Surprises prove that the city can construct a massive, highly successful entertainment economy without waiting for the cooler weather to return. They manage to keep hotels booked, restaurants full, and cash flowing through the city during the most hostile months of the year. But it creates a deeply paradoxical experience for the people actually visiting. If you visit a desert city in August, but spend the hottest hours of the day moving seamlessly between an air-conditioned hotel room, an enclosed transport system, and a perfectly chilled megamall, you have to ask a difficult question. How much of the actual desert city are you truly experiencing? You are physically located in the Middle East, but your daily environment is entirely engineered, completely detached from the geographic reality just a few inches beyond the glass. It is a highly controlled simulation of an urban escape. Looking at this massive architectural and behavioral shift, it is incredibly easy to frame the summer season as a vulnerability. But viewing this as a failure of urban planning completely misreads what is actually happening on the ground. The city has adapted to its geographic reality with an incredible level of sophistication and logistical power. By constructing specialized seasonal calendars, funding massive campaigns like Dubai Summer Surprises, and allowing commercial buildings to absorb essential civic functions, the city ensures its economy does not collapse when the temperature spikes. It successfully builds a parallel urban experience that allows millions of people to carry on with their lives while the outdoor conditions peak. This represents a massive triumph of engineering, capital, and logistics. But this highly engineered survival strategy introduces a much darker, highly complex question. If an entire parallel urban system is required just to make the summer months comfortable, has the city actually conquered its climate? Or has it simply become extraordinarily good at escaping it? The tension here exists exactly between adaptation and dependency. The city survives the extreme summer by relying entirely on its ability to seal itself off from the outdoors. It builds a barrier strong enough to ignore the heat, heavily dependent on the power grid running and the doors staying tightly closed. This brings the investigation directly back to the original mystery of the disappearing city. When you track the seasonal changes across the map and watch how human behavior adapts to the rising temperature, you realize that the word disappear actually operates on three completely different levels. The first level is purely physical disappearance. Major seasonal destinations like Global Village, the Safari Park, and the Miracle Garden physically lock their gates, remove their crowds, and drop off the active tourist map. The second level is behavioral disappearance. The basic human activities of running, dining, and socializing do not actually stop, but they disappear from the open air. They retreat entirely into enclosed, climate-controlled environments where the outdoor weather no longer dictates the schedule. The third level is temporal disappearance. The importance and utility of certain outdoor activities shifts toward more usable, protected hours of the day. When you combine these three massive shifts, the final payoff of the entire seasonal cycle becomes entirely clear. What disappears is not Dubai itself. What disappears is the version of Dubai that can behave as though the outdoor climate does not matter. The city that operates in January simply cannot exist in July. So the city temporarily packs that open-air version away, locks the gates, and rolls out an alternate operating system designed purely for survival. This seasonal transformation creates a perfect visual contradiction that defines the entire urban experience. During the winter, the defining image of the city is explosive outdoor color, massive pedestrian crowds, and sprawling open-air attractions operating under flawless weather. Then the calendar turns to summer, leaving behind closed gates, sun-bleached pathways, and empty exterior spaces that look completely abandoned. But those empty spaces are just a geographic illusion, because just a few feet away, right behind the heavy glass doors, runners are moving through shopping malls. Families are packing into massive indoor entertainment halls, restaurants are completely full, and the economy is thriving inside a perfectly chilled, engineered bubble. Every single summer, parts of Dubai disappear, but the city never becomes empty. It simply becomes something else. Outdoor attractions retreat, human activity relocates, and massive buildings take on entirely new urban functions. The tourist map shifts inward, and the clock is completely rewritten. Another version of Dubai takes over the territory until the season turns and the outdoor gates finally unlock again. Dubai's skyline may make the desert look permanently defeated, but every summer, the desert still gets a vote in how the city lives. This documentary examines seasonal behavioral and spatial shifts, and it is highly important to clarify that Dubai does not completely shut down during summer. Many hotels, massive malls, indoor attractions, businesses, and even certain outdoor spaces continue to operate year-round. While certain major attractions explicitly cite extreme summer heat for their seasonal closures, other venues close for scheduled renovations or routine seasonal transitions. Only causal relationships supported by reliable evidence are presented as causal in this analysis. Looking at how the city completely reorganizes its map, I want to know your exact perspective. Does this show that Dubai has mastered extreme heat, or that it has simply become exceptionally good at escaping it? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and subscribe for more investigations into the massive systems that build our world.